Hello, good evening. This is State Senator Ed Kennedy, and I'd like to welcome you to the 15th episode of the Beacon Hill Buzz. And my guest today is Phil Sisson. Phil is became the president of Middlesex Community College on July 1st, replacing Dr. James Mabry, who retired after 6 years as president. Phil has spent 11 years serving as the college's provost and vice president for academic and student affairs. So I'd just like to welcome you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Could you tell our viewers a little bit about your background and the road you traveled to be chosen as Middlesex Community College's 5th president?
So what I tell people all the time is that higher education changed my life. I'm a first-generation college student. My dad was a janitor in the Newport school system. I'm a Rhode Islander. And my mom also cleaned houses on Bellevue Avenue. And so what higher education did for me was it changed the trajectory of what would happen in my own economic impact for my family and for me. And it was an opportunity for me to really get a sense of what college could do. And I had always wanted to be a teacher because I think teachers had influenced me so much throughout my entire early childhood, and then later on, in my estimation, it was those folks who were mentors for me and really changed my life. And I got very involved in the idea of working with gifted students back when I started my career. So I have a secondary school background, and I taught in a high school, private prep school on the east side of Providence. But my experience in my freshman year at college was not very strong. I had some adjustment issues, and so I really had an affinity for the kind of supports that come from people who are not really prepared to go to college, and I was one of those students. And it's those sort of early stages of my experience in higher education that led me to go back and get a degree in counseling, and then take the opportunity to work with my mentor, who is the vice president for student affairs at Rhode Island College, who opened up a lot of opportunities for me to start a career in higher education. And from that, that trajectory I thought was going to take me to be a dean of students. So I started out in a couple of private 4-year institutions, and then moved on, and through some family obligations had to begin work at a job that would allow me to work from 2 in the afternoon to 10 o'clock at night so I could take care of some family obligations. And that was at a community college. That was at Bristol Community College in Fall River. And that was where I fell in love with community colleges and the populations that we serve.
Why did you want to take the leadership reins at the college?
Well, Middlesex is an exceptional institution. I think you know that. I think you know the faculty and the staff there do incredible work, has the right array of academic programs. And when I came here 11 years ago, I've been part of the college for a while in terms of what we've built in those academic programs and how we support students. So when the opportunity came up this time around for the presidency, it seemed really important that we have an internal candidate in the mix to be able to respond to the college's needs. We have just been through a 17-month pandemic. We have a decline in enrollment. We're dealing with racial reckoning as we are across the nation. We're dealing with it within our own institution. So it seemed really important that those were areas that I really focused on throughout my time as provost, that I could take that to the next level as I led the institution going forward.
How would you describe your leadership style?
I would say it's inclusive. I think that's really how I really got the support from a lot of the faculty and the staff. I love the work that faculty and staff do. I know that they are very committed to transforming the lives of our students, and I really think that there is no greater joy than seeing those students cross the stage, have accomplishments, go out into the workforce, or transfer to a 4-year institution. And so the idea of bringing people together to make decisions is critically important for any leader. At the same time, I think you have to be as decisive during a time when you're dealing with the kinds of crises that we're dealing with right now in higher ed. It's that combination of skills that I think really drove me to really be part of this conversation about becoming the next president.
Like most other college campuses, Middlesex has experienced a dip in enrollment over the past year since the COVID-19 pandemic. How do you plan on tackling the enrollment problems for Middlesex in the coming semesters, and do you attribute them totally to the pandemic, or do you think there are other factors such as demographics or whatever?
There are other factors, and we've had a dip in enrollment for a number of years, very small declines until a more significant decline that we had during the time of the pandemic. The college has really a number of programs that allow us to serve a couple of different constituencies that are really important. Number one is those students that are coming directly from high school who may have never considered college as an option. So the work that we're doing in concurrent and dual enrollment, the work that we do with our admission staff to get out and work in all of the area high schools, and the early college programs that we're developing have been really important to respond to that high school population. The other population that's so important for us for a community college is the adult learner. As we know, a number of adults have lost their jobs during the course of this pandemic. And so our opportunity to do post-pandemic training in a number of high-demand areas, IT, STEM, accounting, areas that are going to be really important to the economy going forward are part of what we need to do, both certificates and associate's degrees, to be able to make sure that those folks can make a living wage.
Could you describe some of the ways that, or some of the ways that you had to change during the pandemic, and were there lessons that you learned from that? And going forward, are there any changes that were made from the pandemic that you will use going forward, post-pandemic?
Significant number of changes, and I talked about the faculty and the staff and their tremendous resilience. If you recall, when we actually were faced with this back in March of the previous year, we had 2 weeks to turn around an entire schedule of classes so that students could move to an online environment.
Right.
And the faculty did that, and they did that because we provided all the tools that they needed to. We provided additional communication response with students through Zoom. Although we had something that was a learning management system that had Blackboard and had an opportunity for a chat, the Zoom component really allowed folks to meet with students and interact with students in a way that they could still engage with those students so they could be successful. We also took a lot of our services and provided them online, and had to do that in a way that people and students could have advising appointments, apply for financial aid, apply to the college. So all of that, we had to use the technology that was at our fingertips, add to that technology, and be motivated to make that change. And I think what we learned through that process is that students loved that convenience. Faculty liked that convenience as well, and so we had about 20% of our courses that were online, and when you go from 20% to about 95%, you can see that we learned a lot during that steep learning curve. Then the opportunity came was, how do we reimagine the institution going forward so that students can not only not have to commute in all the time, be able to have faculty response. Our faculty and students come from a very wide range of the area and the region. So how do we make that as convenient for those students to be able to access higher education as possible? And one of those is something we're experimenting with now, where we're providing high-flex cameras in classrooms so that the faculty can come in and teach, but the student can make the decision to remain at home or actually come into the class depending on what their learning preference is.
Okay.
That's going to be a game changer for the institution going forward.
And are those students able to mix it up? In other words, could you stay at home 1 week because maybe you got the flu or something, and then be in class, or do you have to decide at the beginning of the course?
It's a lot of our courses, we have identified exactly what the primary modality will be. So if it's going to be online, if it's going to be face-to-face, if it's going to be this high-flex model, we'll determine that, and that will be in the schedule. But the faculty have been remarkable through this. Community college faculty have always been incredibly flexible with students. Our students are working, they have young children, they have a lot of demands on their time. Our faculty got through this pandemic with these students and allowed them to be successful because of that flexibility. This technology will add to that flexibility. So therefore, the student, what we find is when you offer this technology, about 75% of the students will stay with whatever they choose initially. 25% of them will make that switch, and they make that switch during the time of the course based on whether there's childcare issues or transportation issues. So it does provide that kind of flexibility to anyone to decide using that modality. I'm going to go into class today, but I'm not. They still need to communicate with the faculty member, but they can then access everything they need through online or through the cameras that are used in the classroom.
And so if you miss a class, are you able to catch up on that class?
Yeah, in fact, that's the other thing that we
Yeah.
learned during the pandemic is faculty members recorded all their classes.
Right.
That's the beauty of what we were able to do with the LMS and with Zoom. So you can record a class and students can go back and review that class, and they have access to whatever happened in that class, whether it was a lecture or whether it was more group work. They can access those because they've all been recorded.
Right. That's a great feature, right?
It is. It's an amazing
Yeah.
feature, and I think it helps our students particularly because of the complication of their lives, but the fact that none of us learns anything the first time we hear it. It's repetition and that opportunity to revisit, go back and change. So it became an incredibly important studying tool for them as well, along with the work that our tutors and our supplemental instructors were able to provide to support those students. They had access to all of those lectures.
Over the past few years, Middlesex Community College has continued to expand its science, technology, engineering, and mathematics programs. And I was happy to be able to get $50,000 put into the state budget this year for new equipment for cybersecurity and biotech programs. Can you explain how the college is continuing to expand on those fronts on Middle Street, your Middle Street properties?
Actually, I want to thank you for that tremendous support. I know it's one of your priorities, and it's a priority for the institution and for the state. And so therefore, it's also a priority of our board. We're very fortunate that our chairman very much cares about the work that we do in STEM, and we've done extensive work over the last 10 years to expand a lot of those programs. We've been able, through a number of grants and the support from people like yourselves and the legislature, to be able to provide a new IT cybersecurity that has been far more directed at the needs of employers today. And we've also been able to expand a lot of our work in biotechnology. We are the largest producer of technicians for biotechnology in the state, and those students not only are successful in what they do with us in terms of a certificate or associate degree, but they go on. We have a National Science Foundation grant with Northeastern University so that those students can get a baccalaureate degree and a master's degree. So we have really worked hard not only at making sure that our students in the STEM area can get out and immediately have some kind of employment, which is important to them and their families, but to be able to expand that so they can complete their baccalaureate degree and their master's degree. We have people in the IT area, in the biotech area, and a number of other STEM fields who have gone on into become vice presidents in those companies because of the advancement that we've been able to provide. So our growth has been not only about what the student accomplishes while they're with us, but what's the pathway and the trajectory for that student over the course of their lifetime to advance.
Right. Additionally, your arts program received a huge boost in recent years, opening the Donahue Family Academic Arts Center on Central Street, which helps serve as a gateway to downtown Lowell. I've supported many various art programs for Greater Lowell and was extremely pleased after seeing the renewed vitality in that building. Can you talk about the arts program and how it's evolved?
Well, my undergraduate degree is in the arts, and I think that the institution has been, as Lowell has been, very committed, as you have been, to the growth of the arts and that the growth of the arts economy. And I think that the Donahue family was very generous in allowing us to move to a facility that was far more aligned with the quality of the faculty and the instruction. So we have some remarkable faculty that have done tremendous work in the arts, and all the way from doing kids' summer camps to get students interested in the arts. But more importantly, we have a variety of degrees and certificates across those arts programs. We have it in dance, we have it in music, we have it in theater. Karen Oster, who is our performing arts chair, is a remarkable talent out of New York. She has worked through this entire pandemic to keep the arts going, so that we've had theatrical performances that have been recognized nationally because we've been able to continue that in a safe environment in that new facility. We would have never been able to do that in the previous facility. And we've had music concerts that have been recorded and shared out across the state and the nation. So we've been very, very fortunate to have forward-thinking faculty who have used that facility to its utmost to be able to work with students throughout that pandemic, so that vitality. In fact, that's the one building I think we've seen more action, more students being engaged during the time that we were sort of off campus and more remote. That's the building that saw a great amount of not only performances but classes as well.
Yeah, it's a beautiful building.
It is a gorgeous building.
I know the equity mission is integral to much of the work that you've charted out for your leadership plans. Can you speak to that?
Sure. I think when you think about the population of the students that community colleges serve, and especially what Middlesex serves, 45% of our students are students of color. And it's so important that we continue to be able to serve those students because that's the demographic that is growing in our cities. It's the demographic that's so important that we need to reach as a community college as part of our mission. We've been doing that through a lot of our work in dual enrollment and the early college programs, which have made a huge difference at getting to students and families that may have never considered higher education. And we're very fortunate that we have had an opportunity to work with Bridgewater State College as part of a consortium called Leading for Change. And that work has been done by myself and someone out of HR for approximately 8 years now. And we've been part of a statewide consortium, both public and private, that has addressed some of the racial inequities, both in policies and practices and in curriculum. So we've been very focused on how do we change the culture so it's more welcoming for all students? How do we make sure that we have the curriculum, that students can see themselves in the curriculum and learn about their own culture and their history? And also, how do we provide the professional development to a predominantly white institution in terms of our faculty and staff? We've made gains over the last few years, but in essence, we all have our own personal journey around race equity, and that's so important to the college's movements going forward to be able to support students.
And what do you think the fall semester will look like?
It's going to be a mixed bag. It's very interesting because we have had 17 months now where students have really had a chance to learn how to be better online learners, but not all students succeed in an online environment. Some of them don't even succeed very well in a flexible environment. They really want the face-to-face interaction and the support of the faculty member, of our tutors, of the support staff, and all of our engagements so that we can get students retained at the institution. I think what we're finding is that we've planned for approximately 42% of our classes to have some face-to-face aspect. And in fact, those classes are filling up. They're filling up with new students who have not interacted with the institution yet. And so that's where a lot of our newer students are choosing classes that are face-to-face, and a lot of our introductory level classes are going to be offered that way so that students have the support that they need. But our returning students can access all array of courses through the online and the hybrid environment. So we think it's going to be a very interesting semester. We're going to learn a lot about what happens to our schedule. But I think we're going to continue to follow the data and get a better sense of whether students are successful in those environments, and then grow the schedule for the spring semester based on what we learn through the fall. So as we get our employees, our faculty, and our students back on campus and back engaged from the time that was remote for 17 months, I think we'll use those best lessons that you mentioned before to create more options for students so more students can access the college.
Why do you think that a student should choose Middlesex Community College as his or her first option?
Well, we always talk about affordability, and that's first and foremost for students who and their families that are planning for higher education. I think a lot of families still don't understand that you can come and get the same courses and the same education, and in those 2 years, once you get that associate's degree, you think about what a bachelor's degree is for a transfer student. A lot of it's general education courses, and we certainly have all of those courses, an array of those courses for students to be successful. And we have all the transfer partnerships and opportunities for students to go on if they're going to transfer. The other reason is the fact that so many of our programs are really career-oriented programs. You think about the amazing programs we have in health, in STEM, as you've noted, in business. There's an opportunity for students to come, get an associate's degree or certificate, and immediately get in the workforce, and then they continue their education after they've done that. So we are not only the most affordable choice, we're an excellent choice. Oftentimes, you will find that the faculty that we have are the same faculty that teach at UMass Lowell or other institutions. Yep. The quality of our faculty is second to none. The support services that students need to be successful are all at a community college, more so than you'll ever find at any university. So we're the perfect place for a lot of students to get started.
Okay. And Middlesex has long enjoyed partnerships with high schools throughout Greater Lowell. Can you talk a little bit about the dual enrollment programs and the early college programs at Middlesex that have excelled at recent years, and the value of those programs?
I'm very fortunate that I have a dean that we were able to mix into our administration, came from Northern Essex, who really understands the philosophy of an opportunity that the lines are blurred between high school and college, and that a lot of high school students, if they're exposed to the fact that they can complete college level courses, will get that spark to be able to continue in higher education. So we started out with just a couple of partnerships with some Voc Tech schools, and also, of course, with Lowell High School, who's our largest feeder school. That's expanded to now 26 partnerships with high schools in our region. And in that, we've been able to create what we call concurrent enrollment. That means that we have recognition of the exceptional talent of the high school teacher, and we use that as a way to provide during the school hours that the traditionally students would go, that they would be able to access their higher education courses by taking the same courses that they take in high school. So they get credit for it to graduate from high school, and they can gather credits to be able to complete a certificate and associate's degree. A lot of our students are coming out of those concurrent enrollment and dual enrollment programs with sometimes 12, 15, 30 credits. We have students that complete their college degree or certificate before they complete their high school diploma. So the early college that we've started is really embedded in what's happening in Lowell High School, and we're going to be moving on beyond that in Neshoba Valley to be able to go into our technical schools and the other 25 sort of support schools that we have, that we're going to be expanding our early college program. We know that if we can get to students and their families when they're sophomores in high school and get them thinking about attending college and understanding all the supports and what's expected of them, then they're going to be successful college students either with us or with some other four-year institution.
Okay. Can you talk about the work that Middlesex does with the workforce? How is the college primed to be a leader and to stimulate economic growth and support job seekers in the market today?
It happens in two ways. I think it certainly happens through everything we've talked about from a credit perspective, because all of the programs that we offer that are career programs are for students to get out and immediately get into the workforce. And if you visit any dentist's office or you visit any hospital, you see that our students are there, and they're also graduates from the college. But importantly, we also have an area called corporate and community education, and that area of the college provides non-credit training to a variety of people, students who just come directly out of high school, but also some that need retraining. Our job is to make sure that we can address all of the needs of the employees of various companies. We do a lot of contract training in those companies. So the college has to be responsive to the needs of all of our local employers. And the college has been doing that for decades and continues to have a very robust non-credit response and an opportunity for adults who need new skills to retrain or uptrain to be able to do that through the college in both credit and non-credit. So we've been a driving force for workforce development in this region for a very long time, and will continue to be.
And lastly, I know the college just celebrated its 50th anniversary, and so you're leading the way for the next 50 years. What are some of the long-term plans that you would have for the college? Not that you're going to be there for 50 years, but maybe you will, who knows. But could you tell us about what your long-term plans would be?
Yeah, the college has had a remarkable run. Those 50 years have been exceptional, with great leadership and some tremendous expansion of programs. I think in the next 50 years, we get an opportunity to really imagine what the college is going to mean to these constituencies that we serve. I think we're going to see tremendous growth in sort of the online, hybrid, and variety of ways that we can meet students' needs. I think we're also going to see, as I said, we're going to expand the demographics of the students that we serve and reach a lot of families who would have never thought about going to college and changing lives one student at a time. I think that the college really has developed a strategic plan that's going to carry us through this transition period as we move out of the pandemic into the long term of what the college is going to be in the next 50 years. And we're doing that with a lot of careful planning, with some assistance from the state government and the federal government to be able to really meet students' needs going forward. So I'm encouraged. I think the best years of the college are yet to come.
Okay. That's all the questions I have, but I want to thank you very much for being a guest on the show. I'm really excited to have you as the president of Middlesex Community College. I wish you all the best, and I'm looking forward with working with you in the years to come. So this is my guest, President Phil Sisson. Sisson?
Sisson. You got it.
Sisson, who is the president of the college, and I just want to thank everybody for tuning in to another episode of the Beacon Hill Buzz. Till next time, thank you very much.